Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning into the Liberty Report. With us today, we have Daniel McAdams, our co-host. Daniel, good to see you this morning.
Good morning, Dr. Paul. How are you this morning?
Doing fine.
All right.
I want to start off by talking about jobs in the economy. You know, there was not too long ago, they were arguing, a statistic came out, and I don't think the president was happy because it looked like he wasn't doing his job, he wasn't employing enough people and that sort of thing. But now they had to revise something as a statistic back in, I think, April and March and April. And they said there were 911,000 jobs that weren't there. And now, guess what they've discovered? They've discovered they weren't really there at all, but they look good. But I don't know if Trump back then was bragging about how strong the economy was. But anyway, 911,000 jobs disappeared. And it's who knows who's doing what because there's no advantage to this. It very well could be just total ineptness with the government statistics, and I don't think that they're smart enough to organize this and release it on certain dates, but they're always playing games. But Trump hasn't had a whole lot to say. At least I haven't heard that. Like before, he was blaming the reporters, and you know. The old saying about you kill the messenger if you don't like it. But right now, the markets sort of like it in a way. They don't hate it because this shows that the economy is weaker. Yeah. And I've argued in the last couple of months that eventually Trump is going to prove to be a better Keynesian than the others. They're both wrong because whether it's Powell or Trump, they don't know what the interest rates really should be. But Trump, I think, picked the right one, lower it. And I kept saying, he probably knows, he's a businessman, and he probably has good instincts, and he probably knew the economy was a lot worse than they would admit. So that he argued and fussed with Powell. And it's verbal, and it's causing all kinds of confusion like that. So now that they've done this, Trump really, they're going to be on Trump's side because they're going to have to lower interest rates more than, Powell didn't want to. He sort of was just fighting with Trump because he's a Keynesian himself, but they disagreed on policy. But that's one of the reasons why both sides are always wrong, because neither one are supposed to, mandate interest rates. Prices. It's price control is what it is. It's the biggest price control system probably in the history of the world, is to regulate the price of the dollar, which is a big central, international currency. So that's why this is a big deal. So the markets say, yes, the interest rates are going to be lowered, not 25 points, but 50 points. Oh, that's good. How do they do that? They print more money. What does that do? That causes more inflation, prices to go up. Who knows what to do? And then the markets are sort of happy about this because this Keynesian stuff that they deal with, if the economy is weak, no matter, and prices are high or something, will just manipulate interest rates. But they're the ones who have caused the problem by manipulating interest rates. So that's a big issue right now, and they're arguing today, what the results will be. There'll be several, ramifications, but only the market will speak. And the market's assessing this, and they will be talking about next week. See, you shouldn't have done it, or you should have done more, or something like that.
Well, there's a couple of charts from the article that we were looking at. You can go ahead and do that first one now. This is the worst version in history. We already covered that, but we're going to put that next one on here in a second. It's a couple of graphs that are probably worth looking at. And you're right, Dr. Paul. This is what Hedge said as well. Brace for another huge negative payrolls revision. Greenlighting a 50 basis point September rate cut. That's what everyone wants. That's what everyone's talking about. Now skip the next one and go to that last one. These are the annual benchmark revision of non-farm payrolls. That red on the far right doesn't look good, Dr. Paul. Doesn't look good at all. It looks like he's going to get that cut. What's that going to do to the bond market if they cut that 50 basis points?
Well, immediately the market will adjust for it, and they like it, but it's going to cheapen, borrowing. But also, they're thinking about cheapening the borrowing for the government too.
Yeah.
That might be the biggest motivation because they're always arguing, mystical things for lowering it, like tariffs. They say tariffs. We're going to punish the Chinese. But we'll collect the tariffs, and in the meantime, we'll use the money. Then they decide the tariff was overcharged, and the Supreme Court might not approve of it, so they might have to give this money back. I think that's what we talked about the other day.
Yesterday, yeah.
It did no sense on that. But the markets are going to react to this, and they usually react favorably. But all I recall so clearly in the 70s, they were doing this Mickey Mouse and around, and no matter how hard they wanted to stimulate the economy by artificially lowering interest rates, interest rates went up to 21%. So the markets, even though they pretend they know a lot and they appeal to their special interest and take a position, really, when the bottom line comes and the dust settles, the market will rule the day, and it won't be good. And the consumers already have suffered from this, and they know that they're being punished, and there'll be a lot more of that.
Did gold react at all to this? Did you notice anything this morning? Gold?
Oh, gold didn't do a whole lot. To me, the bigger fundamental position is, they're going to lower interest rates. They're going to print more money, and there's more chaos. And gold is supposed to respond to this. But overall, the markets decided, even gold went up, but it settled down. It's not up a whole lot right now, but it's been going up a lot. So maybe it's a breather spell.
Yeah. Well, the big story we're following today is Israel has decided to bomb yet another country. I guess it's collecting them like trading cards. But if you put that next note, this is from the Times of Israel. Israel decided to attack Qatar, which is a major U.S. ally in the region. Israeli airstrike targets top Hamas leadership in Doha. Their fate is not clear. Now, since this came out, I think 2 of the Hamas political bureau officials have been killed. But go to the next one. The Israeli army says it carried out an assassination attempt on top Hamas leaders in Qatar's capital, Doha, where multiple explosions have been heard. A Hamas source tells Al Jazeera that attack, quote, happened as the negotiating team was discussing a Gaza ceasefire proposal put forth by the United States. So you have this attack in the middle of a major capital city in the region. And in fact, just to give you a sense of what it was like, I do have a clip here of people in panic, as could be expected, during this strike. This is a short one, but just kind of put yourself in the position where you're in a major capital city and this starts happening. If we can cue up that first, that clip, that video clip, see if that one works out, the video clip. I don't know if it's, do we have that video? Oh, there we go. Let's listen and hear what this is.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Sana hindi bumami yung kotse. Oh my
So,
God.
anyway, I mean, you get the sense of the feeling. To me, it feels like terror, like terrorism. You're in the middle of you're an innocent person in the middle of a capital, and a big couple of, 10 big bombs go off. It's terrifying.
But hardly is Trump going to build credibility when he pulled the same stunt with the Iranians.
Yeah.
And he says, yes, let's have talks and special talks and adjust for this nuclear weaponry problems that they have. And Al Jazeera, much as Trump carried out fake nuclear talks with Iran,
Yeah.
he does it again.
Yeah.
but he proves that his negotiators are there. And I still scratch my head. Where are these guys coming from? Of course, they're coming from interventionism, and they're coming from that they're the smartest people in the world, and each side believes and each side has their own factions because they're dealing with something they should be even dealing with. They should let markets handle this, and they should let some basic principles of non-interventionism. But to go through all this stuff, I mean, how many countries are we in, and how many negotiations are we in, and how many? And this has just gigantically, expanded with this administration because everything they want to run everything. And if not, there's going to be sanctions and tariffs and punishments and messing around with weaponry and all these agreements. So it's I would say that in some ways this administration is riskier to us than the previous one because Biden was sort of inept and everybody knew about it and they sort of ignored him, but. This administration is intimidating, and the members of Congress are intimidated, and I think that power is dangerous. I like influence, and I like people wanting to do something and have some beliefs, but they should be always moving in the direction of more emphasis on the individual solving their problem, not more domineering politicians. We have too much of that, and you measure domineering politicians by the budget deficit, and guess what? Budget deficits keeps going up, spending keeps going up, in spite of all this talk about it's time to cut, and yet even the people who have recited that, the members of Congress, almost to the T, they talk about it. Whether they're big spenders or whether they pretend they're not big spenders, they all. Almost all of them vote for the spending. And then they think they're going to solve it by Mickey Mousing around, with the interest rates. Solve the problem. Oh, things will be okay. We'll just raise interest rates this week, and lower interest rates this week, and this will lower the cost of borrowing for the government. I think it's a real big mess that is rapidly growing.
Well, you're right in what you said at the beginning, Dr. Paul, which is that Israel basically attempted to assassinate the team that the U.S. government was negotiating with, just as they did with Iran. In a normal situation, you don't try to sit down with people and assassinate them when they sit down. Well, here's the Times of Israel again. If you put that next one up, so this wasn't the U.S. being blindsided by Israel. No, not at all. And two reasons. The first of which is that the United States controls Qatar's airspace. We know that. So they couldn't have done it without the U.S. support. But here we have it from the Times of Israel itself. Israel informed the U.S. ahead of the Qatar strike, said a White House official. Go to the next one. Israel notified the U.S. before it carried out airstrikes on senior Hamas leaders in the Qatari capital, Doha. A White House official says, quote, "We were informed in advance." The official tells AFP on condition of anonymity. But it's even worse than that. Not only did the U.S. did the Trump administration greenlight the Israeli assassination of the people we were negotiating with. Go to that next clip. The United States actually refueled Israeli jets on the way to do it. According to local sources, American and British refueling aircraft took off from Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, refueled Israeli fighter jets that bombed Doha. So talk about an insult to the sovereignty of Qatar. The refuelers took off from Qatar's own bases, our own bases on their territory, to refuel Israeli planes to bomb that country. I mean, if you have any kind of self-respecting government in Qatar, how would you feel about this being done on your own soil?
And there is a point they make, which is sort of sinister, and that is no more, hardly any body bags coming back, and they think they can keep getting away with it. But if you're dealing in a world of morality, for them to do exactly what you said they do is they fuel, and then they go in and they set up talks, and then they blow the talks apart. And that is in the category of just basic morality, but it also is in the controversy about, are they doing what is constitutional? Is this permitted under the law? And quite frankly, a lot of it is not. But I think this is a good example. I've often emphasized, the people who have a tendency in politics to separate, committees and all. Well, you work on domestic stuff, and the other ones are going to work on foreign policy. But here's one where you can see the combination, because as this was going on, oil spikes as explosions rock.
Yeah.
So it is it is a mixture of things, but everything they do, I mean, whether we're sending money to Ukraine or to Israel, that has an effect on the deficit. The deficit has an effect on the consumers. The consumers suffer a lot more than the military-industrial complex. They don't suffer from it. So it's one system. So the system of constitutionality and non-intervention and morality, is much bigger than that, because you're not supposed to allow governments to do anything that you or I couldn't go out and do it. When you stop and think about that, that's a lot they do that we wouldn't be allowed to do. I mean, they have a monopoly on the violence that they distribute, and yet they say, yes, but without the government, we would have no hoodlums in the street. Well, I'm not so sure that they haven't done a very good job over the years, and they would be better off if they could sort it out, but that isn't what they're doing. If you transfer the violence to the government, it's still pretty bad. And what if the thou shalt not kill, and we shouldn't be killing people, and that's violent? Just think how many people have died from our bombing, civilians. So we're going to save this country, and this sort of thing. But a lot of civilians die with our foreign policy. But it's not still not really acceptable to talk about that, because you just blame America for anything. No, I don't blame America for everything, but I point out when their policies lead to a disaster, financial and also with government violence.
Of course, absolutely. This whole sordid story, Dr. Paul, though, I think is even worse than what we know. I mean, because here's the other thing that happened over the weekend. Put this next one on. So the U.S. delivered a ceasefire proposal to Hamas. Now, this is an article exclusive, the 100-word ceasefire proposal that Trump sent Hamas. This is Jeremy Scahill wrote this on his Substack. And it said, the subtitle, it looks like it was written by the Israelis. So out of the blue, the U.S. delivers this very, very short, I think about 100-word ceasefire proposal. That is really short. Go to this next one. A 5-point summary outlining U.S. President Donald Trump's proposal for a Gaza ceasefire was delivered to Hamas by mediators over the weekend. Trump has characterized the ultimatum as a final offer to the Palestinian resistance movement. Before Israel accelerates his campaign, the brief, approximately 100-word document presented in Arabic and obtained by DropSite News is titled The Main Proposal. Now go to the next one. This is interesting, though, Dr. Paul. So it's not clear who drafted the document that Hamas says was delivered to the movement by the mediators. It does not contain any seals, stamps, or signatures, nor is it dated. Quote, this is what we received from the Americans. It looks like it was written by the Israelis, a senior Hamas official told DropSite. Quote, the intention isn't only to achieve a full military victory or surrender of the movement, but also to delegitimize Palestinian resistance. Amit Segal, an Israeli analyst known for his connections to Prime Minister Netanyahu, said on Sunday, this is not an American proposal, but an Israeli one, wrapped in elegant cellophane and labeled Made in USA. This is an Israeli guy. Trump's plans are like Apple products. iPhones are manufactured in China, then shipped in the US, then they are wrapped up and stamped Made in the USA. So here's the thing, Dr. Paul. What if this weird proposal that didn't even look like it came from the US, what if this was the cheese that the Trump administration, along with Netanyahu, were used to put in the trap, the mouse trap, that Hamas then said, okay, we're going to meet and discuss this proposal. They said it's their last proposal. Let's get together. Apparently some officials came from Turkey. Let's get together and talk about this proposal. But it was a fake proposal. Its intent was just to get them to get there so that Israel could bomb them. Imagine how much that harms American diplomacy.
It has to make things worse.
Yes.
It can't be helpful. And, you know, the saying was that during the campaign, we were told that the new administration wouldn't start wars and they would stop wars. Well, Venezuela, we messing around down there, and we're still financing wars all over the place, whether it's in Africa or Asia or wherever, and we're spending that money. But if he wants to stop war, it wouldn't be that hard if he had support from the people, from the Congress, and from the president. And that is stop the money.
Yeah.
I mean, there would be no Mideast war at all going on there if the people, American citizens and taxpayers, would have to sacrifice so much. So, you know, if people are, I think they're more unhappy than people realize. I just sense that people are just discussing it and they're worried about it, and that's going to happen. That's why it's so important they know why this is happening and why you have to cut spending. And right now there's very poor understanding, but that's deliberate. They've been working on this system to fool the people into believing they're here to save us, those politicians, because the people wouldn't know what to do if the government didn't have the right to, take their money and send them over and be involved around the world. It makes no sense.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank Georges for putting in $25 into the kitty today, saying thank you for covering this. You're near the only ones. Yes, no one really wants to talk about it. But think of how damaging it is, again, to American diplomacy. For Trump to be so subservient to Netanyahu's goals that he would really literally drop a bomb on American diplomacy. Well, I had a couple of reactions from people on X that I thought were useful to bring up. The first one is John Hoffman. He's a very good analyst. He's over at Cato, among other places. I've known him for a while, respect him a lot. He says, Israel strikes on Qatar show yet again Netanyahu has zero intention of ending this war. Alongside the strikes, Israel ordered the full evacuation of Gaza City. Their stated goals are to kill, expel, and occupy. American support gives them total impunity to do so. Now, the next one is Ryan Grimm. He is from Drop Site News, which is the one that was doing the good reporting on this. And he has a great summary. Here's what just happened. Trump set a peace deal to Hamas. Hamas met to discuss it in Doha, while the U.S. is mediating talks and has a base, and Israel bombed them, presumably with U.S. support. The strike in Doha was aimed at Hamas negotiators who were gathered to discuss Trump's ceasefire offer, according to a Hamas official. As much as Trump carried out fake nuclear talks with Iran in order to kill the Iranian negotiators. That's like what you said, Dr. Paul. Ryan continues, this might explain why Trump's offer was so short and scant on details. The whole point was to gather the people together to discuss the peace officer to kill them. So, again, that's what happened with Iran. The negotiators were killed by the Israelis. Now go to the next one. This is DD Geopolitics, their take on it. Chairman of the Hamas Political Bureau, Khalid Mashal, has reportedly been killed. A senior Hamas official told Al Jazeera the movement's negotiating team was attacked during a meeting in Doha while discussing the ceasefire ideas put forward by Trump. This wouldn't be the first time the Trump administration lured someone into talks only to be attacked. So you lure these people into talks with the promise of diplomacy, and then you kill them. What does that do to U.S. credibility overseas?
I hope there's a positive message in that. Maybe we learn a lesson and back off from the stupidity of that type of a policy. And I think this is something that has to be done. And it's not going to stop until the people decide it's going to stop. But the people are starting to speak out. You know, I remember a little bit, and I'm sure you do as well, that when the debates were going on, the subject of a non-people came up. And they just blew it off. They're a non-people. Just think of how much policy has established that and emphasized that. And now if anybody stands up and says you ought to at least have, you know, some consideration of a group of people like that, and recognize, you know, what you're doing. But what are you accused of? You're accused of being un-American, anti-Semitic, and the whole works. At the same time, we're just engaging, and going further into bankruptcy, and intellectual bankruptcy, financial bankruptcy, and moral bankruptcy. And with that, you have to see an enlightenment. And I do see it. We see some people. How many people do you think from our meetings that we had? Yeah, they're small, but they're significant. You know, when we have a conference, and they're out there. But people have been subject to the propaganda, not for a decade or so, but for, you know, 50 years or more, about accepting these principles. And it certainly is a mess, and it's going to end. I'm not saying they've won forever, because their system can't work. It's sort of like what happened to the Soviet system. People made predictions, you know, it would end. Because it's a failed system. And I would say this is a system we have now, our capitalism. That's so disgusting. That we and when they say capitalism and democracy, they're holier than thou.
Yeah.
And but the system we have is not a holy system, and it's not a free system, and it will fail. But the big thing is what ideas and who will be blamed for it, and what are we going to replace it with? And right now, Marxism is still on the march, but I'm still of the opinion that it is such a lousy philosophy. And right now, I think the philosophy that guides us, you know, it's the American philosophy. You know, both sides, they talk about, you know, the Constitution and the greatness of our country, in which we do have,
Yeah.
But that group is no longer running the country.
Yeah.
The people are being run by, in many ways, the gangsters and the deep state, and we're at least starting to recognize that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, the Israeli propaganda machine will say that if you object to this, that means you love Hamas. Well, absolutely the contrary is true. You don't have to love Hamas, because what the Israelis, with Trump's backing, what they have done is actually put Americans in harm's way. And let me explain. This is Elijah Monier, who is a journalist who writes a lot from that part of the world, someone I've been on panels with before, and I think he's an incredibly good journalist. He points out why this is a danger to America, not just to the negotiators. Put that next one up. Donald Trump is gambling recklessly, turning every American in the Middle East into a hostage of his blind support for Israel. By sanctioning such an attack, Washington has shattered Arab trust and placed U.S. personnel across the region in unprecedented danger. Trump has made the U.S. complicit in escalation, and every embassy, base, and citizen now bears the cost of his gamble. Regardless of the fallout from Israel's strike on Qatar, the truth stands clear. The United States can no longer be trusted by its closest allies. So in other words, Trump is, in being subservient to Netanyahu and Israel's policy, he's actually putting his own citizens in danger, and he doesn't seem to care.
You know, the word trust, I think, is so important because, at least in Texas, at one time they talked about, you know, a handshake in Texas was very important, you know, an agreement, and they felt obligated to follow that through. And trust is important between individuals and groups of people, and making promises. If you say you're going to do something, that's one of the basic principles that is necessary if you want to live in a free society. If you tell people you're going to do something, or you're going to have a contract with somebody, that you have to live by. Otherwise, if you drop that part of natural law that you ought to do what you say you're going to do, it doesn't work. So right now, that trust is being challenged, and in a way, it's a sign that it's not a true trust. They don't deserve the trust. And now, just what you just got done reading, you say, boy, this is something. But of course, I think we've been looking at things, and I got motivated by not trusting the government with our money.
Yeah.
And that's a big one.
It's a good start,
And
for sure.
putting the counterfeiters in charge.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to close out today, Dr. Paul, by again reminding our viewers of our good friends over at antiwar.com. They're doing their quarterly fundraising, and we want to keep them in business because we're selfish. They provide us a lot of the material that we use. So if you're inclined, go over there and support our great friends over there at Anti-War, Dave DeCamp, Eric Garris, and all the great people that work over there that we've known for many, many years. So over to you, Dr. Paul.
Very good. I, too, want to thank our viewers for tuning in, because it's very important to us, and that's how information is spread and ideas are spread. And we don't have to have numbers greater than any other numbers. We just have to have, you know, a idea of an understanding about what truth is, what natural law is, and I go from there, because the founders knew about it, and they were in a minority for a long time before the revolution. So that is something that we'll continue to work on. I believe our numbers are we outnumber the other side, but we don't have enough voice, and we don't have enough, of the resources to do it and promote these issues. But they are so important, because I don't think a good system is accidental. I think a good system, such as our system in the early years, was due to a good idea, and that was based on individual liberty and personal privacy and personal property, all the things that America has been known to, which is slipping away and being justified by rationalization, which is frequently filled with a lot of lies. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today to the Liberty Report. Please come back soon.